Oops. They're happy with it. Yeah. I think it's more of that. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. We don't have microphones here that can amplify, so you'll have to speak loudly and clearly. You'll see I'm holding a microphone, but that's going to our WebEx audience who is participating online, okay? So we would like to get the meeting started. If you will all stand, we have Supervisor Patrice Horseman here. She's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America and to the republic for which it stands,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. So now I'll turn it over to Commissioner Lerner, who is chairing the meeting.
Good morning, everybody. Very nice to see you all here. We're all happy to be here as well. I now call to order the next meeting of the listening tour of the Independent Redistricting Commission. We would like to remind the public that COVID-19 is still prevalent, and we ask you to follow the Arizona Department of Health guidelines. If you're not fully vaccinated, you should wear a mask in public space. If you'd like to participate from home, each of these meetings is being streamed through WebEx. Please note that if you would like to make a public comment, you may do so by signing in with staff over in the back where you came in and filling out the public comment card. If you haven't already done so, please fill out the Community of Interest survey. There is a QR code on signs at the sign-in desk and on the public comment cards that will direct you to the link. Please see a member of staff if you have any questions. We have an American Sign Language or interpreter joining us virtually, and we have interpreters and headsets available for those in attendance. We also have a transcriptionist who will be transcribing every meeting. Please speak slowly and clearly so we have a clear record of your input. Will the interpreters in attendance introduce themselves now?
Hello, my name is Tiana. I am one of the ASL interpreters today, and my team today will be Catherine Montoya.
Good morning. My name is Gloria Walseth. I'm a resident of Cholo, and I'm here to interpret in Spanish.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, at this time, we will introduce ourselves. Again, I am Commissioner Lerner. I represent Maricopa County, and I am a Democrat. Chairwoman?
Hi, I'm Chairwoman Newberg. I'm an independent, and I'm from Maricopa County, and I'm super excited to be here.
Commissioner Meal?
I'm David Meal. I'm from Pima County, and really appreciate the public being here and giving us input. Thank you.
And we have on virtually Commissioner Watchman.
Thank you, Commissioner Lerner. I'm Derek Watchman. I am the Democratic appointee to the commission, and I'm from Apache County. So good morning, and thank you, everybody.
We're all pleased to be here. Thank you. Now we will move to agenda item 2, which is going to be a presentation on the process. First, we will have a representative from our legal team begin.
Good morning. My name is Sean Summers. I'm one of the attorneys for the commission. I'm here from the firm Ballard Spahr. I'm joined this morning by my colleague, Ryan Regula, who's another attorney for the Commission. He's from the firm of Snell and Wilmer. And I'm just going to begin today by talking a little bit about what the Commission is, what it does, and what we're here today to do on the listening tour. So we're going to start with the Constitution. As you probably know, every 10 years, the Constitution requires the federal government to take a census. From that census, congressional representation is reapportioned among the states, but each state is responsible for redrawing the districts within the state to account for changes in population in the state over the previous 10 years. From Arizona's statehood in 1912 until the year 2000, Arizona did what most states do still, and what pretty much every state did at the time, and the state legislature controlled redistricting. So the state legislators drew their own legislative districts. They also drew Arizona's congressional districts in the U.S. House of Representatives. That changed in the year 2000 when voters approved Prop 106. Prop 106 amended the Arizona Constitution to create the Independent Redistricting Commission. So you can see there the language of Article 4 of the Arizona Constitution says that in every year ending in 1, like 2021, there has to be established a new commission to draw new lines for the next 10 years. The Arizona Constitution has some requirements for how the commission has to be structured. First, it has to have 5 members. No more than 2 of those members can be of the same party. Typically how this is worked out is that there are 2 Democrats, there are 2 Republicans, and then those 4 choose an independent chairperson. No more than 2 of the original 4 members can be from the same county either. And you can see there on your screen the names of the current commissioners, 4 of whom have already introduced themselves to you. The Constitution also prescribes 6 goals for how the commission is to redraw the maps. These are what the commission has to take into account in redrawing both the legislative districts and the congressional districts. First, the districts must comply with the U.S. Constitution and the Federal Voting Rights Act. Second, congressional districts and legislative districts should both contain equal population to the extent practicable. Third, districts should be compact and contiguous to the extent practicable. Fourth, districts should respect communities of interest to the extent practicable. That's largely what we are here today to talk about. We're here to get input from you on this listening tour about what you consider your communities of interest to be before the commission begins drawing the maps. Fifth, to the extent practicable, district lines should follow visible geographic features, city, town, and county boundaries, and undivided census tracts. And then finally, to the extent practicable, competitive districts should be favored where to do so would create no significant detriment to the other 5 goals. These are the 6 goals that the Commission will be taking into account in drawing the maps. Next, the timeline about what the map drawing process is going to look like over the next 6 months or so. First, in July and August, the Commission is going on this listening tour. Like I said, this is to collect input from you about what you consider your communities of interest to be. In August, mid-August, the Census Bureau will be releasing data from the 2020 census. The Commission does not have this data yet. The Census Bureau hasn't released it, so the Commission can't start drawing maps until we get the 2020 census data. That's later than usual. Typically, it would have been released already, but it was delayed because of COVID-19. In September, the Commission will draw and adopt a grid map. A grid map is meant to clear away the old district lines. Whatever districts there are now, the Commission has to start from scratch. The old districts will be wiped away. And the Commission will adopt a grid map that only takes into account 2 of the 6 factors. It will contain districts of equal population, and they will be as compact and contiguous as possible. So if you imagine a grid laid over the state of districts of equal population, that's what the grid map will be. From September through October, the Commission will draw and develop draft maps. That is, they will adjust the grid map in order to take into account the other 4 goals that aren't reflected in the grid map. Then, once the Commission has adopted draft maps, there's a mandatory 30-day comment period in the Constitution that's required before the Commission can finally adopt a final map. So October to November, 30-day comment period on the draft maps, and then from December to the end of the project, the Commission will revise the draft maps and adopt a final map. So what are some ways that you, as members of the public, can get involved? Well, first, all meetings of the commission are open to the public. They are streamed online, and you can submit public comments to the commission at irc.az.gov/public-meetings. Second, we want to hear your initial input on your communities of interest. We have some tools that will allow you to do that in addition to this meeting today that we're going to talk about in just a few minutes. But communities of interest are something the commission really needs to know about. Finally, input on draft maps. So before draft maps are adopted, there will be a mapping tool that we'll speak about in a minute that will allow you to draw and submit your own draft maps, submit comments on the Commission's draft map once it's adopted, and in the late stages, as we approach a final map, you will be able to comment on that map as well. So with that, I will turn it over to Mark from Timmins, our mapping consultant, and he'll talk a little bit about information and empowerment tools that we put together.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Flahan with Timmins. Part of my team I have up here is Ivy Beller-Sikansky. She's our demographer from NDC. And sure. My name is Mark Flahan from Timmins Group. Can you hear me now in the back? Perfect. Next to me, I have Ivy Beller-Sikansky. She's a demographer from NDC. And also on my team, I have Parker Bradshaw over there, also from Timmins as our project coordinator. So I want to talk to you about a couple empowerment tools that we have put in the hands of you guys that are available on the web 24/7 for access. The first one is the Socioeconomic Report. It is an interactive site with geographic and socioeconomic data, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. The two other mapping tools that we have is our Community of Interest Survey, which you probably saw on QR codes when you came in today, and it is another 24/7 available online that allows you to submit your community of interest. And we'll again talk about that in a future slide. The third mapping tool that we have that we're currently setting up is the redistricting system, and that'll allow you to draw and submit proposed map changes. Okay, so let's talk about the Socioeconomic Report. Like I said, it's a 24/7 web app that's available. You can go to IRC's website and get a link to it. It has 14 different points of demographic data throughout the entire state of Arizona. So you see an acronym up there that says CVAP, that is Citizen Voting Age Population. And then it also has a bunch of other demographics. So rental and renter housing, other languages at home, etc. So that is available to you today. The next piece that we have is our Community of Interest Survey, which is why we are here today to learn about your community of interest. Like I said, it is available online. You can see on the right side, it has a community boundary map. So it allows you to draw your own community of interest on a map to be able to submit back to the commission. This is really putting the power in your guys' hands to accurately depict what your community of interest is. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Ivy to talk about exactly what a community of interest is.
Thanks, Mark. I'm sorry? Good morning. Can everybody hear me? Okay, we're going to try this again. Good morning, everybody. It's great to see you. So, what is a community of interest? It is a geographic area of people who share a common story or connection. That connection can be common social interests, shared demographic characteristics, similar impacts from a legislative or congressional issue, or any other connection that leads people in a given area to believe they would benefit from being kept together, united, and in one legislative or congressional district. As you think about your community, Think about the factors that Mark mentioned on the survey online. And that survey says, think about you and your neighbors. Do you have similar jobs? Do you rely on similar public services? Belong to the same neighborhood associations? Are you impacted by some regional environmental concern? Is your community defined by similar regional land use issues, transportation concerns, languages spoken, community celebrations or traditions, or other similar characteristics? Any of these characteristics could define a community of interest. Now it is your turn. As they travel the state on this listening tour, the commissioners want to hear from you. What do you want the commissioners to consider as they draft and ultimately adopt their maps? How do you define your community of interest? Using the various tools that Mark described and in your testimony today, we want to hear what brings your community of interest together and what are your community's geographic boundaries. Remember, the commissioners can incorporate your community into their maps only if you let us know where your community is on the map. Thank you for being here today. And now I will turn this back over to the commission staff, who will begin to take your comments.
So before we move to, and thank you all for the presentation, before we move to agenda item 3, public comment, staff will be reading you the rules of the meeting.
Citizens may only speak when recognized by the chair or the presiding officer of the meeting if the chair is absent or otherwise has delegated hearing administration authority. In compliance with Arizona's open meeting law, speakers should confine their statements to the issue on the posted agenda, which is before the commission. Speakers are also requested to limit their comments to approximately 3 minutes. Additionally, speakers are required to follow proper decorum. Speakers must use appropriate language. Foul and/or abusive language will not be tolerated. Any speaker failing to follow proper decorum or any other guidelines may be asked to leave. Any breach of peace or disruption of a commission public hearing may be cause of a report to law enforcement, arrest, and prosecution. If someone has expressed the same sentiment as you, you do not need to speak in order to have your comment recorded. As long as you filled out the survey, your input will be received and considered by the commission. Everyone is welcome to speak should you choose to do so. Opposing viewpoints may be expressed by the citizens present. As a courtesy, citizens are reminded to address their comments to the chair and the commission and not to the audience present. Please show respect for all speakers and avoid personal comments. Remember, the commission must hear all sides of an issue to make an informed decision.
Thank you. We are now into agenda item 3, public comment, and we will begin the public comment portion. Will staff read the names of the first speaker and the one in the queue? Thank you.
Madam Chair, and members of the commission and those in the audience, I'd like to welcome Don Wilson, the city council member for ShowLow, to come up and do the opening comment.
Hello. I welcome you, the Arizona Independent Redistricting Commission, to our beautiful city. This is a great place to live, a great place to vacation. I would like to welcome the general public for attending this and thank the elected officials that are in our audience today as well. I just wanted to say, thank you for coming up here and doing this. This is very, very, very important. And I would like to encourage the citizens that are here today, the citizens that are listening online, to participate in meetings such as this, whether it be online or whether it be in person. I really would like people to get involved. This is extremely important. Your voice needs to be heard, and it's going to get heard if you participate. And that's the biggest thing I wanted to say. And again, welcome.
Thank you.
I'd also like to introduce in the listening audience Mr. Jerry Smith, the Vice Mayor of Pine Top Lakeside, Ms. Whitesinger, who is Supervisor for Navajo County, Mr. Darrell Seymour, Supervisor for Navajo County. They will not be speaking. And I'd like to introduce the next speaker, who is Supervisor Judy B Gay from Coconino County.
Good morning. I guess I can be heard, right? Good morning, Chair and members of the Independent Redistricting Commission. My name is Judy B Gay, and a member of the Coconino County Board of Supervisor overseeing District 4. And my clan is Twidichini and originally from Comay Mesa, which is 20 miles east of Tuba City, Arizona. I'm here and I represent the eastern portion of the Coconino County. I am also a member of the Navajo Nation. My comments this morning focuses on the outreach to the rural citizens of throughout Arizona. While living in rural Arizona on our ancestral land aligns with our traditional lifestyle and upbringings that we have on the reservations, and within Arizona, we often feel that our voices do not have the same impact as those who live in the populated areas of our state of Arizona. Unfortunately, rural Arizona suffers from high unemployment, struggling economic development, lack of jobs, and fewer services and resources compared to the urban areas where the opposite exists. In addition, as the world, the nation, and our state and our region become more and more connected through Wi-Fi, broadband, WebEx, Zoom, and Teams, rural Arizona typically does not have the infrastructure or digital pipeline. While the digital divide has always existed, COVID created an even greater need to be connected. This brings me to the IRC listening sessions. Many individuals who would not have traveled to the cities to participate did so. They did it by traveling to the satellite locations to listen and provide their comments. At the satellite sessions held in Page, Tuba City, Chinle, Eager, Sedona, and Congress, as well as state satellites in southern Arizona, you heard from rural Arizona. And this is why it is so important and disappointing to an extent that the two opportunities in Navajo County, namely Kayenta and Cocotes-Marie, in Hopi Reservation, were canceled. I believe I can speak for my county colleagues in Navajo and Apache counties that the counties, including Coconino, would gladly assist the IRC staff in arranging meeting locations for future IRC listening sessions so that the needs and sentiments for rural Arizona, in particular Native American communities, are shared and heard. And I want to thank the IRC for being here today, and also the people that are in attendance to be part of these sessions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Supervisor. The next speaker is Supervisor Patrice Horseman, and then after Supervisor Patrice Horseman is Brandon Martineau.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners and members of Navajo County. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comments on the redistricting process for congressional and legislative seats to represent our Northern Arizona communities. I am here along with Supervisor Judy B Gay. My district, in District 1, encompasses Flagstaff. It goes west through Coconino County to the Grand Canyon, to Yavapai County and the Mojave County borders. My colleague, Judy B Gay's district, also serves East Flagstaff, then east to Navajo County border, and then south to the borders of Gila and Yavapai County. I provide this location orientation to illustrate that while our neighborhood counties are contiguous, each contain various types and sizes of communities of interest. These communities of interest extend beyond county borders. Creating a redistricting outcome that accommodates communities of interest is daunting. At the same time, we are all here attending these listening sessions and benefited by becoming aware, learning, and respecting what matters most around the state, the county, the region, chapters, villages, and neighborhoods. At the public hearing this week in Flagstaff, where I saw most of you, our Board of Supervisors commented on guiding principles or areas of focus that we consider important communities of interest for those of us here in Northern Arizona. They include regional economic development, sovereign indigenous nations, the rural nature of the counties here in Northern Arizona, and the rich diversity we have up here in Northern Arizona. While these are important issues to raise, and as the commissioners may find all of this somewhat challenging, in the coming weeks, Coconino County, and I'm sure many other Northern Arizona rural counties, will be submitting specific maps that address the 4 areas that I've mentioned, communities of interest, but also we will be including what we are learning by attending these listening sessions. This is an opportunity for all of us to hear each other and to come together.
Time.
And I want to thank you, Commissioner and Chair, and the commissioners for your important work and your service here to the state of Arizona. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Brandon Martineau.
Madam Chairman, members of the commission, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. Welcome to ShowLow and Navajo County. I live in Heber and Overguard community. It is the largest unincorporated community in Navajo County. I am the president of the Chamber of Commerce and have been there for 6 years. I've been living in Heber and Overguard for over 20 years, and I have immediate family and close friends in almost every community in southern Navajo and Apache County, and as far south as Safford and Pima and that area. And these communities are very close knit. We attend church, local and regional church activities together. Our schools interact on a regular basis with sports and academics. We attend each other's community events, 4th of July's and other events, 24th of July. These communities are very close knit. In this summer with the Wyrick fire and other fires burning in our area, and recently the flooding, it's these same communities that have pulled together to offer aid and assistance to each other, and I just want to emphasize the importance of keeping these communities together in a legislative district so that they can continue to work together in the same way that they have in the past. I do have 2 proposed maps that have been put together that I would like to present to the commission of suggestions that we have of proposed districts. The first one would be our preferred option. The second one would include the reservation communities together, if that's what they prefer. But just want to offer these suggestions to the commission, and thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Representative Walt Blackman, and after Representative Walt Blackman is Christy Blackman.
Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you for allowing me to be here. My name is Representative Walt Blackman. I represent Legislative District 6, and I also am a candidate for Congressional District 1. I've represented LD 6 for the past 2 sessions. And typically in this district, when I represent the people in this area, it tends to also come over into, as we are in Snowflake, or in ShowLow. And I am representing those folks in ShowLow that are not in my legislative district, that do not have the same interest, community interest, family interest, religious interest, as some of the counties that are in the current map that we have right now. When we're talking about communities of interest, traveling around the second largest district in the United States, LD6, and also Congressional District 1, which is the size of Pennsylvania.
You're not going to be able to hear it. Hold on.
Also Congressional District 1, which is the size.
Yeah, but it's going in my ears. Hold on.
Do I get to reclaim my time? I'm watching the news. But also Congressional District 1, which is the size of Pennsylvania, there were a lot of discrepancies in those districts. So being a rural representative in this area is quite challenging because of the differences that the present map have. The best fit for this community is to align the districts that have the same interest as you already know. That's going to get their word out. That's going to be able to, their votes will be counted more. There'll be more to say at the table because of the new maps that are being proposed to you for the new districts to include the legislative and congressional district. I'm going to stop now and let other folks speak. I appreciate you being here, and we really do hope that you will take that in account when you are voting and when you are realigning these districts. So thank you.
The next speaker is Christy Blackman, and then following Christy Blackman is David Peelman. Following David Peelman is Judy Humphrey.
Good morning. Hope you guys are having a great day. We're so grateful that you're taking the time to consider our input. Rural Arizona often feels like we're unheard. The current districts leave us with an even weaker voice. Legislative District 6 and 7 are the largest legislative districts in the country. Congressional District 1 is the size of Pennsylvania. I would argue that these districts are not set up in communities of interest. And in fact, I know they're not because my husband is the current state representative. And Flagstaff's needs and desires are very different than ours. In our area, you'll find a lot of cattle ranching, farming, mining. And then there's also, when people generally come up to these areas, they come up here because they have family. Snowflake I think it's the best place. I think ShowLow is the best place. But most people head over to Flagstaff for recreational. When they come up here, it's more like hunting and fishing and that type of stuff. So I feel like there's two things that I would like you guys to consider. One, the land mass of the district. It's extremely hard. We have a vehicle that is 2 years old and it has 80,000 miles on it. For our legislative district 6. That's one legislative. I don't know who designed the last map, but it's like you're popping over each other all the time. And then we have the issue that ShowLow, the representatives who are currently on the Navajo Nation, it's hard for them to get up to ShowLow. And so all of ShowLow, they go to Walt when they need legislative issues done. And it's kind of the same thing with Congressional District 1. Flagstaff is often represented by GOSAR. ShowLow, Snowflake, they call Walt, and Walt always connects them with GOSAR. We've had a difficult time getting in contact with the current representative. I'm not saying that he's bad, but that's a huge the size of Pennsylvania is a big, massive district. And the issues are so different. They're just all so completely different that it's hard to represent as one voice when we feel like a lot of the things that they are representing don't represent what we want. You know, we very much need to align them. I think it's the responsible thing to do. I think if you align us as communities of interest, it gives us a better voice. And right now, we really don't have that. Right now, it's very confusing, very, very confusing. And in fact, I would argue that most people in ShowLow, Pine Top, Lakeside, they believe Walt is their state representative. And I know this because I field the calls and they're like, we're not going to vote for you again. And I'm like, well, I don't know how you did the first time, but we'll still help you.
Time.
Please consider that. I feel like Coconino County would probably be better off over with Yavapai. They're all a lot of recreation, a lot of hiking, and this type of stuff. The people that come up here are generally more your fishing, your hunting. So it would be almost better. The Navajo Nation, I'm not sure because, man, the Navajos do a lot of
time
and farming. So thank you so much.
Next speaker is David Peelman. After David Peelman, Judy Humphrey. After Judy Humphrey, Eric Kramer. After him, Stephen Slayton.
Good morning, Commissioner, Chairman. Thank you for coming to ShowLow. I appreciate the opportunity to finish the comments that I started yesterday in Eager. Yesterday in Eager, you heard many of the problems that are faced between or differing problems north of I-40 and south of I-40. You've heard reference to areas as large as states, the Navajo Nation being as large as West Virginia, LD7 being as large as Indiana, and CD1 being as large as Pennsylvania. You have a monumental task ahead of you. I do not envy you whatsoever. Your decisions will impact the state of Arizona far more than any single legislator, representative, or politician for 10 years to come. As Representative Walt Blackman mentioned, we feel, I feel, and many in this southern Apache County area feel, he is our representative. I will tell you, I have called him personally on numerous occasions to help resolve issues, not the least of being the latest incident of COVID spreading among our community and the issues and the problems it faced. You know that the Navajo Nation north of I-40 had a radically different solution for their community as differing from the rest of the state of Arizona. They locked down a portion of the state of Arizona as large as West Virginia, denying the opportunity and access of the rest of the people of Apache, Navajo counties in the state of Arizona. Mr. Martineau presented you a map, a generalized map. We don't come before you and tell you these problems without trying to offer a reasonable solution to these problems. He provided you a map of East Central Arizona, which is representative of what you've heard here, what you've heard yesterday in Eager, and hopefully and most likely you'll hear in other testimony. The people of the Mogollon Rim, the largest national or the largest ponderosa forest in the world, we're involved in cattle, forestry, ranching, farming, business. We have an entirely different structure for creating entrepreneurial businesses here in the White Mountains than what occurs north of I-40. I would ask you to take the comments you hear today and elsewhere to heart and truly recognize that we all want and deserve representation, but you're here to listen to communities of interest. As LD7 and LD6 are currently laid out, they do not represent in any way, shape, or fashion our communities of interest. Please, you have the opportunity with your wisdom, your knowledge, your abilities to redraw these lines and provide the representation
Time.
to this community that we're so sorely lacking. Thank you for the opportunity.
Jody Humphrey.
morning, Madam Chairwoman and Commission. My name is Jody Humphrey, and I am a lifelong resident of this particular political district. I lived in Vernon for over 25 years, and I just recently moved to Winslow, where I've lived for the past year and a half. I just want to make one general point and then one specific point. There are over 6 distinct political districts within the Phoenix metro area. Anyone who doesn't live there will tell you that Tempe is the same as Mesa, which is the same as Glendale, which is the same as Phoenix, which is the same as Queens Creek. However, the people who live there in those communities will tell you no, they are distinct, they are different. However, we in this particular political district have not been given the same courtesy and the same equity. Anyone who lives here will tell you that Winslow is different from ShowLow, which is different from Heber-Overgaard, which is different from Tuba City, which is different from White River, which is different from Chinle. Yet we are all lumped together and counted as one area. And it is assumed that our interests economically and geographically are the same. So that is my general point in that we are not. We are all vastly different. My specific point is I believe that Winslow should be counted as part of Flagstaff's political district. And why that is because Winslow citizens do not go to ShowLow for any of their major needs. They do not go there to go to the hospital. They do not go there for shopping. They go to Flagstaff. I'm one of the exceptions, but that's because I have family here. So we also share the railroad, which is something that ShowLow and the other southern part of the district does not include. We also don't have the major forest needs that this southern area has. We live in a desert, so therefore the threat of wildfire is not the same as it is here. So those are my 2 points. Please give us the courtesy of having the same fair and equitable representation as people and citizens in the valley have. And I would also, I will take advantage of the tools that you've mentioned, and I will include Winslow as a community of interest with Flagstaff, because I believe that our economic values align with theirs, and hopefully our voices will be better heard with the redrawing of this district. Thank you so much.
Next speaker is Eric Kramer.
Thank you very much for your comments so far. These are all wonderful to hear from you. Just as a note, as you are providing us this feedback, it's great to hear how you would like things to be grouped. Keep in mind, there's also a population threshold that has to be reached. So if you can kind of think about that as well and provide us with that input, because that's one of the issues, right? We have to reach, in rural areas, it's a lot tougher to get to that population threshold. So we'd really like to hear from you as you come up and speak about those kinds of things of how you hope to get to that. Thank you.
Thank you for coming to the White Mountains. Thank you for the work you do. I am Eric Kramer from Pine Top, Arizona. I'm here today to speak in favor of the Native American community of interest. And I consider this in Northeast Arizona to be the Navajo, Hopi, White Mountain, and San Carlos Apache reservations. They certainly are the strongest community of interest in the state of Arizona, and they definitely need to be kept together. Partially to, you heard from the Blackmans. One other community of interest I hope that you consider is Navajo County, keeping that together as one in one legislative district. I think you heard the Blackmans explain how it's hard that the middle part of the county is chopped out and connected to Flagstaff and points west. It would be better if the entire county was kept together. It would result in better and clearer representation for everyone involved. I think the interest of the natives being together is obvious. One story I will tell you, we went through this terrible pandemic. We're still going through this terrible pandemic. when the state set up the unemployment program for people in the COVID pandemic, it was absolutely essential that the natives had representation in Phoenix. If they hadn't had that representation in Phoenix, we certainly wouldn't have never got those state programs off the ground to serve the Native Americans. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
The next speaker is Stephen Slayton. After Stephen Slayton is Molly Ottman. After Molly is Sylvia Allen.
Good morning. My name is Stephen Slayton. I live here in ShowLow. I work and own with my wife the one and only Trump store here in ShowLow. I'd like to thank Chairman Newenberg, Commissioners Mill, Watchman, Leonard, and York for your dedication to look over this redistricting process and with your decisions on redistricting, which will affect so many people. My wife and I, we represent the White Mountain Conservatives. We represent thousands of folks who pass through our store monthly with all having the same community interests. We currently are in Congressional District 1 and Legislative District 7. Due to the size of both districts, it is the same state as Pennsylvania. You've heard a lot of that today. With the size of these districts, half our population is bound to feel unrepresentative, and they are. Districts should be compact to actually represent communities of interest who live and work together. A new Congressional District 1 and Legislative District 7, or whatever you decide to call these new districts, should actually represent communities of interest, which is required by state and federal law. I recommend keeping both the congressional and the legislative districts the same size and map, which keeps both representation on the state level and a federal level for a common interest. For example, communities of St. John's, Snowflake, Taylor, Holbrook, Joseph City, Winslow, the Navajo Nation are not part of these communities of interest of the White Mountains. They're made up of primarily a rock and high desert plateau with a vast valley of ranch land architectural between the two regions. The culture of the way of life is different than those communities of the interest south of these cities. The White Mountain community, which is outlined on the map, which I turned in the other day for you folks, the community of interest is committed to bringing tourism to the region, along with common interests with the other White Mountain communities, which share rivers and lakes, national forests, winter sports activities with ongoing economic development with the White Mountain Apaches and San Carlos Apaches. Please do not include us in a legislative district for these northern cities in the Navajo Nation. These would arguably dilute our representation, which is commonly referred to as retrogression. The White Mountain communities need to be with the White Mountain communities of the same interests. These interests are nonpartisan and are for the common good of our locales and region. I thank you, and God bless you.
Molly?
Hello, thank you for letting me speak and welcome to ShowLow. My name is Molly Ottman. I have 2 bachelor's degrees, one from FAU in mechanical engineering and the other from NAU in education. I've worked with NASA and I've also consulted on the space shuttle. I live in Linden, a part of LD7. I'm a mother of 3 and my husband's a firefighter. Whether it's fire, floods, or natural disasters, we need legislative representation. Many roads in Linden are not maintained by the county. That means if we have a flood or we're snowed in, no one is coming for us. So it's very important you understand that. If we have 4 feet of snow in some roads in Linden, or if we're flooding, no one is coming for us. We are on our own. Have you heard the term taxation without representation? It clearly defines the present state of LD7 in the rural areas of Navajo and Apache County. And by the way, we all call Walt. LD7 is a populace that is required to pay taxes to a government authority without having any say in the government's policies. I want to be able to elect a representative that is from my area and one that understands our community's culture. You moved the goalposts too far. Move them back and redraw LD7. Thank you.
Michelle, before you, I just want to make one comment. It's super helpful when we hear specific information about what fundamental needs are not being met, so that when we're thinking through all of the complex decisions, we understand the specifics of what your needs are. So thank you for diving into those specifics.
Thank you and good morning. Thank you, fellow commissioners, for being willing to serve on this commission, because I know it's a lot of work. Thank you so much. I'm Sylvia Allen, former Arizona State Senator for District 5 and District 6, and former Navajo County Supervisor. Representation by the people of the people is fundamental to our constitutional republic, and forming legislative districts that are based upon communities of interest, geographically compact and competitive is essential to better representation. Dividing up our counties into multiple legislative and congressional districts impacts our representation. When I represented District 5 as a true rural district, and we need a true rural district because rural is different than urban. We have different issues, which I'm going to list 9 of them. The 5 eastern counties were South Apache, South Navajo, Gila, Graham, and Greenlee, with small portions of Pinell County. I am asking that we again have an Eastern Arizona rural legislative district because we are all communities of interest. 1, the copper corridor. Copper is critical to national security, and more copper is located in those 5 counties than all across the country. We have the largest stand of ponderosa pines and forest, and our issues are catastrophic fires and forest health programs like Fry, keeping our timber industries, and common issues that are common to all of our communities. Ranching is realized in all 5 of these counties. Farming is realized in 5 of these counties, bringing millions of dollars and food security to our state. Recreation is huge. The valley comes to our area to recreate, and it brings in over $50 million, as camping, hunting, and fishing is very important to our areas. The watershed, we're the watershed. The forest is critical for the water that ends up in Salt River lakes and the irrigation system in the valley. 7, our pioneer heritage in all 5 of these counties are similar and connect us, as Brandon had testified. The people in these counties are hardworking, God-fearing, freedom-loving, constitutional, Bill of Rights believing people, and it doesn't matter what party they belong to because we're just these good old rural people. We struggle to maintain our small businesses. It's really hard to have a small business up here, and it's different, and to create jobs. And we have more federally controlled land than any other area in the state, and we must deal with these federal regulations and these federal lands and these federal agencies, and that's what the Eastern Arizona County Association does, deal with all these federal agencies like the Mexican Wolf Program that impacts our private property rights and our tax base. I believe that the Flagstaff area fits very well into the District 7 because they're closer to them, and Flagstaff provides so much for the Navajo Nation. It provides education opportunity. I know that Coconino County provides workforce development for many of the citizens from the Navajo Nation. They have their health care needs. A lot of state and federal government agencies are there to service the tribe. And the tribe has more in common with the Flagstaff City Council philosophically and in goals that they're trying to reach than they do with like ShowLow or Vernon or some of these other communities. Also, the Navajo Nation doesn't have some of our issues like the hunting, fishing, and camping, the mining, and all of those other issues that we deal with so completely with these 5 rural district counties. Another thing is we do feel like our White Mountain Apaches really have a lot in common with us. They have their beautiful forest lands. We work with them on the forest health and the forest fires, and of course recreation. They have the best elk permits in the world. So they have that in common with us, but they still want to be in the Indian district, which I would totally understand. Then these maps, and if I could hand this to the commission, the maps these are grassroots maps worked on from first started down in Gila County. It shows a way that the White Mountain Apaches and the San Carlos Apaches can still be in with District 7 at the same time allowing these other communities of interest, South Navajo, South Apache, Greenlee, Graham, Gila, and parts of Pinell County. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak today and for your work. I try to talk as fast as I could.
Thank you. Before you, Ms. Allen, before you leave, I have a quick question, follow-up question, if I could. Just a quick, it's okay, it's all right. I couldn't go above the applause. The applause were great. Could you just, for all of us, we've heard a lot about the copper corridor as we've been traveling the state. Can you give us what your definition is of that?
Yes, the copper corridors are historical communities that were founded on these copper deposits. So you've got Superior, you've got Miami, Globe, you've got Kearney, Winkleman, Oro Valley. All of that is the copper corridor. You've got, of course, Greenlee, Morenci, Graham County. They have, Morenci is the largest copper deposit in the world. And so that is the copper corridor that has historically been founded, and those communities have depended greatly upon these jobs over the years of the up and down of the copper market. So
thank you. I just wanted to make sure,
yes.
and that way everybody's on the same page and
yes,
as well.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Laura Doty, Kathleen Dubs, Jim Vance.
Thank you very much for being here and taking the time to listen to what we have to say. I've been a resident here for about the last 17 years. And during that time, I have noticed that there is very little opportunity for the people of the White Mountain communities to be adequately represented in the state legislature and the because of the size of the congressional legislature as well, congressional area. I agree, and I would call attention to what Mr. Blackman said, Representative Blackman, Mr. Peelman, excuse me, what he has said, in the fact that we are not adequately represented. Some of the major issues that we have, we cannot afford another Rodeo Shayeski or Wall of Fire. I was reading an article not too long ago, in the past 2 weeks, that the Ponderosa pines in our area, here in Northern California, are diminishing. The forest is diminishing tremendously. We need good forest management. We can only get that through good legislative representation. And I hope that you can find it in a way to get the representation when you draw the maps that will show good, adequate representation and forest management for our communities. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kathleen Dubs. It's nice to see you all in person instead of in little boxes on the Zoom screen. The job you're doing is just tremendous. I can't imagine all the work that you've been doing, and the Independent Redistricting Commission is the pride of Arizona, and I'm just so glad that you're doing this job to make it independent and fair. What I have to say is very simple. When I bought my home up here 5 years ago, I was amazed to look at the districts and see that there was this huge chunk of Navajo County that wasn't in the same LD. And I just think that all of Navajo County should be in the same LD. I also agree that the Native American nations should also be in the same LD so that they have a voice. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
The next speaker is Kelly Mixler. After Kelly is Clayton Howard. After Clayton Howard is Tony Beethman.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity to speak. Thank you for coming to our lovely community. I am a business owner up here, and I want to just tell some anecdotal stories, but I want to agree with the eloquent and thoughtful Sylvia Allen on that map. I think that gives us the right population. But I want to talk about my experience. So COVID, Executive Order 2020-43, and this is on point,
immediately shut down my business, and it shut down all my friends who were in bands, right? I have bands from Oro to Sanders, people who are from Heber. They're spread throughout this region that we're discussing. That's all rural, ranching, lovely people who have the least number of HOAs in the whole country. That must say something about us as a community of interest. So when this happened, we went into like panic mode. And a friend of mine, so we started talking about how are all these bands that are suddenly out of work, how are they going to feed their families, what are they going to do? And we put in our own community action network before the federal government, before the state government, before anybody else. And that region that she's showing on that map, that's the group, that's the area that we were trying to cover, helping our friends and our neighbors. And so I want to say another thing about the White Mountain Apache, about these reservations that are in our schools, they're our friends. When I hire bands and I'm hiring people from White River, I'm not thinking that they're natives. I'm thinking they're my friends. They're the ones I pray with. They're the ones I play with. They're the ones I work with. So I very much see them as part of our community. And in fact, from the world of music venues, bands rarely get the night off to go out and party themselves. They're always working Friday and Saturday night. And last night, one of the founding members of Apache Spirit, the oldest, longest running reservation band up here, was partying at my bar because I'm her local date night bar. We're like this, and we can't be torn apart because it looks like, well, here's what I've been told, is that there's a reason we have such a dominance of one side, one party, and that was like, it's like we have to go to court so that I can be equally represented by my legislative district, which doesn't seem fair. Who made it so that my vote counts less than anyone else's in Apache County or anyone else anywhere in Arizona? If there's a percentage they're trying to hit, then aren't you predetermining? Anyway, that's my point. I hope you all have a great day and come visit us in the Apache County, Southern Apache County, Southern Navajo County, and our region again.
Jim Vance. Jim Vance. Or it could be Jay. Is it Jim Vance?
Madam Chairman and members of the commission, appreciate you being here today and listening to the comments that are made. I do know that there were people that came here today that were turned around because they felt that there were too many people in here. We've got seats that aren't available here, but they would have liked to have had their voice heard also. I don't have a whole lot to say because most of what I had to say has already been said. There are a few things which I won't take your time to discuss, but I'll write them in. But one thing that I'm kind of concerned about is that we didn't have a change in the number of representatives in this state. Yeah, things are going to remain basically the same as far as the number of representatives, senators, and representatives that we have. So the simple thing to do is just leave the boundaries as they are and continue as normal. That's what I'm afraid of, but there are areas of interest that just are not being taken into consideration the way things are. The boundaries need to be changed in order for some people to be represented and to have their voice heard. And I'm thinking specifically of parts of Apache County. So that's my main concern. I'll leave it at that. I definitely do want to change the boundaries. I noticed Senator Allen's changes, the maps that she gave you. They look very good to me, especially the first map. But, you know, I'd hate to see the Apache people in their areas to be completely neglected. And if they want to join the other Native Americans in their in their legislative district, that'd be great. But we do need a change. Thank you.
The next speaker is Clay Howard. After Clay Howard is Tony Beethman. After Tony is Byron Lewis.
And just as a reminder, thank you for the comment about people who did not attend. If you know folks who did not attend today, they can submit their comments online. So please remind them to do so because we'd love to hear from as many people as possible. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate you being up here to look at our area. You're probably going to hear little things a little bit different from me. I'm what I consider a common man. I was born and raised in Kansas. My parents and my grandparents lived through the Dust Bowl. I was born and raised on a farm. Your farmers need representation. Your forest people need representation. You probably have the most difficult job that there is. And to be fair is more than difficult. But you need to look at an area and understand that your milk doesn't come out of the store. You may buy it at the store, but it is grown on a farm and it is raised, and the meat you eat is raised by ranchers and people of that speed or nature. The thing is that in doing what you do or what you're going to be required to do is going to be very, very difficult. But you need to look at the people that you are placing in these particular areas and see what their needs are. And also, what the state or the county or the country can provide for them to assist them in making the best that they can with what they have. These areas, a lot of them are not destitute, but they are approaching that area. And from my standpoint, you need to pay attention to individuals or a group of individuals and analyze the areas or the situations that they are in. Like I say, you may have heard something that you really didn't expect out of this area, but we have forests, we have mining that should be going on, we have resources that can be used if the proper representation is given and people are represented as they should be. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you for listening to me.
Tony, I think it's Beetham. Good
morning. Thank you for being here. I'll be very brief. I've been reading a lot about the redistricting, and my main concern is just that things be done fairly without gerrymandering, and I'd like to see rural communities remain rural. Apache and Navajo County are vast because the population is vastly spread out. Much of the population is tribal, and I strongly believe that the tribal nation should be kept as a whole when you consider these maps. Thank you.
The next speaker is Byron Lewis. After Byron Lewis is Nicholas Sisky and Robert Mayhener or Hepner.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you very much for being here on a Saturday. I'm sure there's other fun things that you would rather be doing, but it's doubtful that there would be anything more impactful or long-lasting than what you are hearing today and the decisions that you're going to make, which will impact us in not only our voting, but our social interactions and the way we conduct our business. With that in mind, I do feel the weight of your responsibility. 4 of the 11 largest counties in America are under your immediate consideration. Coconino's number 2, Apache is number 6, Mojave's number 5, Navajo's number 11. Throw into that mix the Navajo Nation, 22,000 square miles, which is approximately the size of the nation of Israel, and you have a very daunting task. As you look at the county map, Elbridge Jerry would be very impressed at the way that county seats or that counties themselves, largely county boundaries, have been ignored. One of the main issues that are facing us here in this area, as you have asked for specifics, is water adjudication. The way the legislative jurisdictions are set up right now, neither entity, those of the Native American populations or those of the civil communities, such as Snowflake, where I represent as an elected official, have adequate representation. This means that both entities at the table are lacking, and that has perhaps precluded a solution that would solve a decades-old conflict where hundreds of thousands of dollars are being spent every month for water adjudication. The map proposed by Sylvia Allen has several advantages. One is combining the non-reservation areas of Apache and Navajo counties with Yavapai, Gila, Graham, Coconino, and Greenlee, preserves county boundaries and communities of interest. That is something that is very, very significant. It's also worth mentioning that here in the White Mountains, and by the way, again, welcome. When you're on the top of a mountain, you are a little bit closer to heaven. But when you're here, you are part of a lot of contingency people that come here to get away. And we are providing services for those individuals who are not necessarily part of our voting district. Again, I thank you for your time. I would encourage you to remember that the thing that unites us all is that we belong to the same country. But we may have different outlooks, we may have different views, certainly in the terms of water adjudication, and that one of the best ways to handle that would make sure that each interested party would have adequate representation. Thank you. I wish you well in your daunting task.
Nicholas Saiski.
Morning, Commissioners. I'd like to remind all of us that the point here is representation. And I had an experience a couple of months ago that may reveal some of our frustrations. My wife and I, we have property both in Navajo County and Apache County. We've been living here for over 30 years. And it's only been in the last 2 years that we've seen more interest and activity and real estate being bought and sold than we have had in over 30 years. We're in the midst of a great change in the mountain, in the White Mountain area. So I reside in Vernon, and we are experiencing the impact of that influx of folks. The infrastructures are being strained. We're unincorporated. And I was encouraged, and I did. I wrote a letter to our representatives of LD7, inviting her to come to a community meeting that she might get to know who we are in Vernon and what our concerns are, and if she was able to help us, to lead us, to give us some insight and understanding as to how we can develop a community that we as a people who live there have thought we would like to have, and not just helter-skelter. Well, I wrote the letter, and 3 or 4 weeks went by, and I received no response, so I was encouraged to call her office. And I did, talking to her secretary, and explained who I was, the letter I wrote, and I had not heard anything. The office said, I will pass the message on to her, and she would respond back as quickly as she could. To this date, I have had no response. So in my investigations, I discovered how large LD7 is. And whether it's the size of Pennsylvania or Vermont, I don't know, but it's big. And I can understand physically why she's not able to respond to our needs in the Vernon area, the ShowLow area. So I would like that I wanted to share that in the simple understanding that the geography here is quite different than any place, I think, anywhere else in Arizona. So the cultural and the common social interests of a people group, i.e. the Navajo Nation, and us that do not belong to that nation, there is a line, Interstate 40, that would be a wonderful place to start. And economically and socially, the interests that we have as a people should be recognized and kept and considered in any other districting. So I want to thank you very much for your coming out and hearing us this morning. Thank you.
The next speaker is Robert Hepner. After Robert is Allison Hepner. After Allison Hepner is Jesse Bryant.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you for your time. I understand it is a time give that you're giving to the community. I appreciate that very much. So I want to talk about two things. One is the districts as they are now, and then hopefully a solution to help you understand that the community, that divider that you need to do. One, obviously the congressional districts or legislative districts that we have are kind of wonky. This area specifically, I would say to you that Navajo Nation really has less to do with us than the White Mountain Apache Tribe. White Mountain Apache Tribe, Snowflake, Taylor, those should be within our state legislative district. That's who we are as a community. Secondly, you look at the congressional district that runs all the way over. If you look at all the congressional districts, there's only one congressional district in the state of Arizona that's actually an area, and that's 2. Everything else has part of Maricopa County in it, and that's because of population. I get it. You got to divide it out by population. I would rather Maricopa County have 4 districts, and you put rural out to everyone else. So how do you divide that? How do you figure that out, and how do you get population even? I think your best way to do that is you use school districts. School districts will be a way to identify communities very easily. They already identify the communities. And if you're crossing or cutting through school districts to create specifically a legislative district, you're probably not representing the community that should be represented. So that's the thing that I would say, look at that as everything else is going to be hard. I can't give you a map because I don't know what the data is yet. They can't give you a map now when you don't have the census data yet. So good luck. Thank you, and I appreciate your help.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you so much for being here. I've been a resident of Navajo County for 28 years, living all throughout southern Navajo County, Snowflake and down. I've been in population health for 18 of those years, either serving as a firefighter for the ShowLow District, the emergency manager for Navajo County, public health for Navajo County. So I've seen a lot of the social determinants of health. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you today. We are extremely underrepresented in our area, and I'm saying southern Navajo County. I too utilize Representative Walt Blackman all the time in trying to get resources to our community. During COVID, we created the Community Feeding Collaborative. It was a collaborative to address our high poverty rates. Our poverty rates, about 3 years ago, we're reducing. We're doing really good. And then COVID hit, and we went back to very high. We're about 34% poverty in our areas. And what this does is this puts a very big stress on our resources. And when we're not representative, we can't get the support of the resources we need. So during the Feeding Collaborative, we ended up trying to create it was just going to be Southern Navajo County, but we found that we needed to include the whole county. We did, but when we did that, a lot of the food and a lot of the resources we couldn't tap into because they were, oh, we serve the 40 and the north of the 40. We can't serve your area. So it really limited our ability to access those resources. Other things that ended up happening that people need to understand, White Mountain Apache Tribe is not San Carlos. San Carlos is not Navajo Nation. Navajo Nation is not Hopi. To be culturally competent is to understand that each one of these tribes has their own beliefs, their own cultures that need to be respected. So when you say, oh, what's going to work for White Mountain Apache Tribe and Navajo Nation, it's not. It's two completely different things. And in public health, we were constantly brought through culturally competent training to understand. I've worked on every single reservation providing services. And I can tell you right now that White Mountain Apache Tribe is completely different from Navajo Nation, not just in their belief structure, but in their topography, in what their needs are, and what their and how their people. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I work more with White Mountain Apache Tribe now that I'm not with public health anymore, but it's just a beautiful community that needs to be seen, and they're not when you lump them together. So the other thing is I worked on with Walt Blackman and trying to address our substance abuse rate up here. We are 3 times, and this is pre-COVID numbers, 3 times the rate of substance use disorder in Navajo County than in the state of Arizona. Now, I bring that up because you're looking, oh, well, Navajo County as a whole. Well, the difference is Winslow actually has a treatment center. Winslow actually has housing for it. Winslow actually has these things because what I find is that Winslow and Navajo Nation end up being, or I'm sorry, Flagstaff and Navajo Nation end up being this suction. And when I tried with Walt, and he tried hard to get funding to stay here to address substance abuse in our justice system, and actually ended up going to NAU. And we have to wait and see if what they came out with it, and if it's anything that's going to actually benefit us. Because Flagstaff rural is not Navajo County rural. It's not Apache rural. We're completely 2 different rural places. In fact, I would say they're a little bit more urban/rural. So I'm asking you today, you have a big job ahead of you, obviously. I'm asking you to look at the redistricting that does not exploit and disadvantage our non-tribal and tribal areas. Because right now, with what happened 10 years ago, I have watched our population health diminish. I have watched our resources reduce. We had a minimum wage increase. That cost so much money to where all of our government resources, all of our other resources,
Time.
they cut them in half, and we couldn't serve. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I wish you guys all the best.
Next speaker is Jesse Bryant. After Jesse Bryant is Paul Cunnerth. And after Paul is Louise Lidgett.
Guess I'll have to bend over. Thank you all for the opportunity to be here.
Pat can ask. I'm like, things going on. Is there any here?
Not to mention, okay, it's very hot, no ventilation and no masks. I'm telling
Ryan.
you, there's going to be COVID outbreaks over there. I'm not.
Is it back on?
But over there,
Test, test.
happening. I think you're probably right. Totally. No. For me,
Oh my
as a
God.
scientist, I know it. I mean, it's not our worries. I mean, they're taking responsibility for themselves. That's right. I think that's been the case with everyone else too.
Glitch in our connections. We've been just got back online, so we are. You did not miss anything. For those of you that are online, we are going to get back on track with our speaker. So, thank you everybody for your patience.
Of one of those resolutions that was adopted 10 years ago from the town of Pine Top and Lakeside, and they said that the communities of interest in eastern central Arizona have strong ties, mutual interest, and recent history of legislative district representation, and the town of Pine Top Lakeside is closely associated and co-identified with the immediately adjacent unincorporated county, and in particular those areas that use either Pine Top or Lakeside postal addresses. And the town of Pine Top Lakeside is also closely associated and actively working with the other municipalities and entities in Navajo County, but in particular the city of ShowLow and the White Mountain Apache tribe. I'll leave it there to give you a sense of how we see ourselves, especially this region here. And where I'm from, we have the San Carlos Apaches, our neighbors, and we have the economic exchange. You need to understand that rural Arizona, we have the same issues and concerns as metro and urban areas, but we have to approach them in a unique fashion. And in our region, we do so. We have that common thread amongst ourselves. It transcends all other demographics. And so we care about water, we care about education, we care about infrastructure, but we're kind of the forgotten part of Arizona, and that's not a complaint. We have to be more self-sufficient, and we prefer to be that way. Perhaps you heard of the floods that hit Miami a day or two ago. Well, yesterday morning, the people of that town, not the local governments necessarily, although they were there, the people went out with shovels and started digging the mud out of their streets and sidewalks. I spoke on the phone with a gentleman who I believe is here today from Vernon, and he told that during their flooding here in the past few days, him and his neighbors are out there digging out the drainage ditches. We can't always rely on emergency services. We have to rely on ourselves, and that's the nature of our region. So the 5 eastern counties, the 5+ eastern counties, we strongly recommend that to you, and hopefully you'll be hearing that same message as I'll see you again in Safford as well, and you're going to keep hearing that message throughout our region here. As far as the maps, I'll speak to that very quickly, that were given to you today. If the Apaches so desire that they wish to remain with the Navajos, certainly they should have the right to do so. We feel that they are our neighbors, the White Mountain and San Carlos Apaches. We'd very much enjoy having them part of our representation. We do business together and so forth. But they can be connected. As you'll see on one of those maps, there is an uninhabited area that connects them. I will leave this resolution with your people here for your review. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Paul Cunnithers. Following Paul is Louise. Following Louise, and the final speaker is Scott Caswell.
Good morning. Yes. Shalom. I'm Paul Crothers, and I live in Pinedale community, which is about 20 miles west of here on 260 on the way to Hebrew Overgard. My office, I'm an insurance agent and a realtor. My office is on the Deuce of Clubs in ShowLow, just stone's throw from here. And my clients go from St. John's to Concho to McNary to White River to Sibique, Hebrew Overgard, down to Winslow, and Holbrook is my marketing area in which I have clients. And right now, we're in District 7, and just a few minutes away, I'm in District 6 for the legislative district, which is what I want to speak about. So our community, right now our community is split, and that makes no sense at all. The reason, we can go into the reasons as to why that happened, but I think that's a mistake, because in the rural areas of Apache County, in the rural areas of Navajo County, we all work here in ShowLow, most of us. The big employers Walmart and the hospital are here in ShowLow, and people commute from Vernon, where I'm at, Hebrew Overgard, they commute here to work. And there's a common interest. I would implore you to put our communities back together, and like was mentioned, so I'm just kind of echoing what was mentioned before, and like Walt Blackman, yeah, we think, some people in ShowLow, they think of him as and he's not. And so I ask you to really consider that. Specifically, it makes sense to, and also in the congressional district, to have south of I-40 be one district combined, and I think that would give us better representation. So thank you for your time. Thank you.
Morning. Thank you all commissioners for being here for us. Can you hear me? Mm-hmm. Okay. I am new to this area. I came from North Phoenix, Cave Creek, lived there for almost 20 years. And love living there, but it just got too crowded, so my husband and I moved out here to the rural area. We live in just north of Snowflake. And we love it. We love it. We love it. There's so little traffic. There's less people, and people talk to each other. It's awesome. It's wonderful. People are real. they know their neighbors. They want to know their neighbors, even though we have 36 acres and our neighbors have property too. But we gather together because we want to be together, not because we're squeezed together into a city together on the same block. You know what I mean? So we are learning to live the country life, and we love it. It's harder, but we love it. We have space, we have air, we have beautiful clouds. We love Arizona. And we believe that Sylvia Allen, Walt Blackman, sorry. I'm new here, but we believe that the northern and the Middle Eastern sections should be separated and grouped, the 5 counties together that Sylvia noted. We think that they have more interests in common. And I also want to say that there's a lot of people moving here. There's a lot of people from the cities moving here, and they're going to have to learn Arizona ways. And the people coming to the country, they need to be together, and they need to think neighborly, I guess you would say, and to work together. We want to work together, and we want to have these 5 areas together so that we can work, whether they're white men, whether they're natives, whether they're Europeans or whatever, whoever they are. We want to work together, and we want to have common interests. And also, the legislators, they don't need to be going all over, crazy areas. We want a more compact area also. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, and thank you for all your hard decisions that you're going to make, for listening to all the people and caring. Thank you.
Next speaker is Scott Caswell, and the final and last speaker is Kelly Rail.
Hello. Our problem now is that we are taxed without representation. Taxation without representation is not American. It is not for my child to grow up being taxed without representation. Our taxes are taken and very little benefit that comes to our people. That is slavery. We want our people to be represented by our people. And if a foreign nation, the Navajo Nation, if they are another nation, they have no right to tax us. They can take care of themselves, we'll take care of ourselves. We can no longer permit a foreign nation to tax us and not give us any benefits. We need representation for our taxation here. They have different values, they have different school systems, they have a different police system. They are separate. They are their own nation. Let them be their own nation. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Kelly Rao. I am from Florence, Arizona, but after serving my time in the military and after my husband retired 30 years in the military, we chose this place out of the whole country to come live and raise our family. This is truly God's country. And as soon as I came here, I saw the dysfunction of our representation. Last year, when businesses were being forced to shut down, I reached out to our state representatives, Orlando Teller and Myron Sosi. I called their offices numerous times, sent numerous emails, no response. I'm not even a business owner, but I could feel the pain. Out of desperation, I created a BOLO alert for our leadership, missing leadership, because they were missing. And I shared it on every Navajo Nation yard sale page, every yard sale page in this area, and throughout the White Mountain Apache tribes. In the responses, I saw that no one was getting representation. It's very easy to sit on the Navajo Nation and virtue signal, but not do anything. So I believe Sylvia Allen's proposed map is adequate representation. It would make this area competitive again. If you want a point of reference to look at what would make us communities of interest, the first place I would start is looking at the DES office locations. White River recently closed their offices. ShowLow closed their office. They moved it to Pinetop Lakeside, so it would be fair for people looking for work and looking for assistance. On the Navajo Nation, they can go to Tuba City or they can go to Flagstaff. And based on the data, a lot of Navajo natives are going to Flagstaff and Tuba City for services. Here at the ShowLow office, they are seeing over 50% members from White Mountain Apache tribes as their clients. Secondly, another point of reference would be looking at the VA Medical Center, the way they have their maps laid out. Navajo Nation is part of Northern Arizona VA medical program. Here in White River, San Carlos, Apache tribes, Payson, they are all out of the Phoenix VA tribe, or excuse me, Phoenix VA Health Center. I believe that this would be a lot more competitive. It's very disheartening to look at the voting ballots and not seeing any conservatives represented, because there's no point. As Dave Pillman has said many times, Jesus Christ couldn't even win LD7 at this point. I believe that we do deserve better representation.
Time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to just say thank you to everybody for coming out on a Saturday morning. I'm sure it's a beautiful day. I'm sure there were a lot of other things you could have done. But we really appreciate you being here. We very much appreciate hearing from you and so I just wanted to say thank you. This was a great morning. As you've seen today, on our website, we have some easy-to-use tools for learning about and sharing information about your community of interest. We are very appreciative of the maps you all have been talking about. Clearly, you've been sharing those. We would appreciate all that kind of feedback from you. Rather than relying purely on our interpretation of your comments today, we encourage you to go online and submit a map to us or provide any additional feedback that you would like to. This will ensure that we are correctly understanding the definition of your community. Please encourage your friends and neighbors to share their thoughts as well. Anyone can do so online at any time. There's no requirement to attend any one of these meetings to be heard. We are appreciative of you being here, but we also want to make sure that you know that this is not the end of hearing from you in terms of public comment. So again, I just want to say thank you very much from myself and our other commissioners and our staff. And I will now adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, look at the weather out there. You see the rain.
Oh, did I say?